For over 2 decades, people have been trying to kill Counter-Strike. Every few years, a new game comes along, with better graphics, more weapons, bigger updates, special abilities, battle passes, and a trailer that makes everyone say, "Yep, this is it. Counter-Strike is finished." And every single time, Counter-Strike somehow survives. In fact, it's gotten to the point where saying CSGO is dying has basically become part of the Counter-Strike experience. The game has dealt with cheating problems, controversial updates, stale content, broken matchmaking, angry communities, and enough people screaming, "Valve doesn't care," to power a small city. And yet, people keep coming back. Even when Valve replaced CSGO with Counter-Strike 2, the thing that made CSGO special didn't disappear. Because Counter-Strike isn't just one game, it's a formula that has survived generations. So why? Why has this incredibly simple game, where the basic objective is essentially shoot the other guys and don't get shot, managed to outlive countless competitors? Why can someone spend 5,000 hours playing the same handful of maps and still queue up for more games? And more importantly, why is Counter-Strike still here after decades of people predicting its death? Well, to understand why Counter-Strike won't ever die, we need to go back to where this whole thing started. Counter-Strike has been around for so long that there are probably players competing today who weren't even born when the original game released. It started as a mod, not some massive AAA project with $1 billion marketing campaign, just an idea. Terrorists versus counter-terrorists. One team attacks, one team defends, plant the bomb, defuse the bomb, and somehow that was enough. Over time, Counter-Strike evolved. New versions came and went, players moved from one generation to the next. Some people preferred the older games, some refused to leave them, and naturally, every new version was apparently going to destroy Counter-Strike forever. Then CSGO came along, and at first, people weren't exactly sure about it. There were complaints, changes, arguments over mechanics, the standard Counter-Strike experience. But eventually CSGO became the Counter-Strike. For millions of players, this was the game. This was Dust 2. This was Mirage. This was staying up way too late because your friends said they were playing one last game. And then, 10 years later, Counter-Strike 2 arrived. CSGO was replaced. And suddenly everyone had a new reason to say the franchise was dying, which is honestly kind of perfect, because Counter-Strike has survived for so long that even replacing Counter-Strike with a new Counter-Strike somehow became evidence that Counter-Strike was dying. At this point, predicting Counter-Strike's death might actually be older than some of the people making the predictions, but there's a reason those predictions keep failing, and it starts with the fact that Counter-Strike has one of the simplest formulas in gaming. On paper, Counter-Strike is almost laughably simple. You buy a gun, you try to shoot the enemy, you either plant or defuse a bomb, round over. That's it. There are no superheroes, no ultimates, no magical walls, no character that can apparently revive an entire team because the developers needed a new trailer moment. It's just you, your gun, and your horrible realization that the guy on the other team has been practicing aim since before you were born. But that's exactly why Counter-Strike works. Because the rules are easy to understand, the mastery is not. A brand new player can understand what they're supposed to do within minutes. Actually doing it well? That's where the next several thousand hours come in. At first you think Counter-Strike is about aim. Then you realize it's about recoil control, then crosshair placement, then movement, then positioning, then economy, then utility, then timing. Then suddenly you're standing in a specific corner on Mirage, aiming at a pixel in the sky because apparently that's how you throw a smoke grenade. And the crazy part is, you can keep discovering things forever. Every time you get better, the game gets deeper. There's always another mistake you could fix, another angle you could hold, another strategy you could learn, another reason to tell yourself, okay, I actually know what I'm doing now. And then you queue into someone with 8,000 hours. Never mind. Counter-Strike understands something that a lot of shooters have moved away from. Death should matter. In most modern shooters, you die, you respawn, maybe you're annoyed for 3 seconds, then you're back. Counter-Strike doesn't work like that. If you die, you're done for the round. Now you're watching your teammate in a 1v3, and unfortunately, he has the bomb. The problem is, he doesn't know that, so suddenly every decision matters. Do you peek? Do you rotate? Do you reload? Do you throw the grenade now or save it? Do you trust the teammate who just said, "They're definitely B"? Because if you've played Counter-Strike before, you already know that they're definitely not B. And that tension creates moments that other games struggle to recreate. A 1v1 clutch can feel like the most important thing happening in the world. Your entire team is watching, nobody's talking, you hear footsteps. You slowly turn the corner, you fire, and miss every single bullet. But that's also why the successful moments feel so good. The 1v4, the impossible op shot, the perfectly timed defuse, the accidental grenade kill that you will absolutely pretend was intentional. Counter-Strike creates stories, not because the developers wrote them, but because every match does. And that means you can play the same map thousands of times and somehow never play the same game twice. Now, this isn't me pretending Counter-Strike is perfect, because it absolutely isn't. Cheating has been a massive frustration for players. Matchmaking has had its fair share of complaints. Updates can feel painfully slow. Some players want more content, others want Valve to stop charging things they already like. And then there are skins, which somehow transformed virtual weapon cosmetics into an entire economy that can make your inventory feel more financially important than your actual bank account. Counter-Strike can be frustrating, like close the game and stare at your desktop for 10 minutes frustrating. You lose because your teammates disconnects. You lose because someone on the other team is suspiciously good. You lose because your team forgot how the bomb works. And sometimes you lose because you just missed. That's the worst one, because now you can't even blame anyone else. But here's the weird thing, people always seem to come back. Maybe not immediately, maybe they take a break, maybe they uninstall, maybe they dramatically announce in Discord that they're done with this game forever. Then 2 weeks later, anyone want a queue? And that's the thing about Counter-Strike. Its problems can push people away temporarily, but the actual game keeps pulling people back. Because even when you're angry at Counter-Strike, you're usually angry because you still care about it. Another reason Counter-Strike refuses to disappear is competition. There is always something to improve. And unlike a game where your progress is tied entirely to unlocking better gear, most of your progress in Counter-Strike is you. You can get better aim, better positioning, better communication, better game sense. And eventually you can look back at how you played hundreds of hours ago and think, how did anyone ever let me touch a keyboard? That progression is addictive, because improvement feels real. You aren't just watching a number go up, you're seeing yourself win fights you would have lost before. You start predicting what other players are going to do. You start understanding why you died, and occasionally you actually listen to your teammates. That skill ceiling is so high that Counter-Strike really never runs out of room for you to grow. And that's why someone can play for 100 hours while another person can play for 10,000. And both still have something to learn. But Counter-Strike isn't only about playing. For millions of people, it's also about watching. The professional scene has created some of the most recognizable moments in competitive gaming. And the reason those moments work is because you don't need a 30-minute explanation to understand what's happening. One player, 3 enemies, 10 seconds. The bomb is ticking. Can he do it? That's it. You immediately understand the stakes. And when someone pulls off something impossible, the entire arena loses its mind. Counter-Strike has managed to create a competitive scene that generations of players can understand. Older player can watch the newest stars. New player can watch a professional match and immediately see just how deep the game can get. And then naturally, they go into matchmaking thinking they can do the same. They cannot, but they will try. Then there's everything surrounding Counter-Strike. The skins, the trading, the community servers, the memes, the content creators, the frag movies, the old clips that people still somehow remember years later. Counter-Strike built an entire culture around itself. For some people, the game is competitive. For others, it's social. Some players barely play anymore but still watch tournaments. Others don't care about esports but know exactly how much their virtual knife is worth. And somehow all of these people exist under the same Counter-Strike umbrella. That matters. Because once a game becomes more than just a game, it becomes much harder to replace. You're not just competing against its mechanics anymore, you're competing against years of memories. Why the Counter-Strike killers keep dying first? And trust me, plenty of games have tried to compete with Counter-Strike. Some have copied the tactical gameplay, some have added abilities, some have modernized the formula, some have promised to fix everything players hated about CS, and some of them have been genuinely good. But being a good game isn't the same as replacing Counter-Strike, because Counter-Strike is something that can't be added in an update. History. You can't download decades of competitive experience. You can't patch in millions of memories. You can't release a battle pass containing every legendary tournament moment, every clutch, every LAN event, and every friendship that started with someone saying, "You want to play one?" A new game can be better in certain ways, but Counter-Strike doesn't need to beat every other game. It just needs to remain Counter-Strike, and somehow that's been enough. Modern games are expected to constantly evolve. New season, new weapons, new characters, new map, new event, new battle pass. Counter-Strike? Sometimes the biggest thing players can talk about is a minor change and somehow they'll discuss it for 3 weeks. But maybe that's because Counter-Strike doesn't need constant reinvention. The core gameplay has been strong enough to survive without being completely rebuilt every few months. The maps remain recognizable, the weapons remain familiar, the objective remains simple. And because the foundation stays consistent, players can spend years mastering it. Imagine if the rules of chess changed every 3 months. People would lose their minds. Counter-Strike works in a similar way. The depth comes from the players. The strategies evolve, the metas evolve, the professionals evolve. Even if the basic objective stays the same, the game doesn't need to constantly become something else, because the entire point is getting better at what it already is. And then there's the nostalgia factor. Every Counter-Strike player has their era. Maybe you remember playing on community servers, maybe you remember getting your first skin. Maybe you remember the first time you hit an actual clip and immediately showed it to all your friends. Maybe you remember staying up until 3 AM playing Dust 2 when you've definitely had something important to do the next morning. Those memories don't disappear just because a new game comes out. In fact, sometimes a new generation is exactly what brings people back. An old player sees a tournament, a friend starts playing, a clip appears on their feed, and suddenly they're reinstalling Counter-Strike. Just to see what it's like now. And before they know it, they're back. Maybe they're worse than they remember. Probably, but they're back. At the same time, completely new players are discovering Counter-Strike for the first time, and that's what keeps the cycle going. One generation remembers it, the next generation discovers it, and both end up getting destroyed by someone with an anime profile picture and 7,000 hours. So why won't Counter-Strike ever die? Counter-Strike has survived because the thing keeping it alive was never just updates. It wasn't graphics, it wasn't skins, it wasn't esports, it wasn't even nostalgia. Those things all help, but the real reason is much simpler. The game is timeless. 2 teams, 1 objective, limited resources, high stakes, and an almost unlimited amount of skill to master. Every round gives you another opportunity to improve. Every match can create another story, and every generation of players eventually discovers the same thing. At first, Counter-Strike looks simple, then you play it. Then you get destroyed, then you start learning, and suddenly, you understand why people have been playing this game for decades. Counter-Strike has had bad updates, it has had cheating problems, it has had frustrating moments in its own community more times than anyone can count. And yes, one day, something might come along that changes gaming completely. Maybe there will be a new Counter-Strike killer. Maybe this time it'll actually work. But people have been saying that for years, and Counter-Strike is still here. New players are still discovering it, old players are still returning to it, professionals are still competing in it, and somewhere right now, someone is uninstalling the game before reinstalling it tomorrow. Because Counter-Strike has never survived by being perfect. It has survived because underneath every frustrating update, every cheater, every terrible teammate, and every missed shot, there is still something worth coming back to. So the next time someone tells you Counter-Strike is dying, just remember, people have been saying that for decades. And somehow, they're still saying it while Counter-Strike is right there, alive, evolving, and waiting for the next generation to load into the server. Because Counter-Strike has been dying for decades, and that's exactly why it probably never will.